Hi. So I'm trying to figure out an appropriate way to introduce this topic, but I can't really figure out a way, so I'm just going to kind of lean into it. I have been feeling over the past few days this itch to talk about my relationship with therapy and trauma and how it intersects with my health and all those kinds of things. And so here I am. I have an interesting relationship with therapy, as do most people, I'm sure. And it's been a couple of years to try to figure out something that works, as I'm sure most people do. It's not something that I've looked too hard into to try and find. I haven't done a lot of kind of like dating with therapists to try to kind of find one that works. I've just kind of settled into something. The one that I have right now is something that works really well, and I think that that's kind of why I feel this need to talk about it, because it's something that is really validating and healing and helpful for me, but it's not something that I've always had, and that's why I feel like I want to discuss it with you. So I started going to therapy quite some time ago. I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. I had to do it because of my intersection with my disabilities. I was doing it at that time because of my chronic Lyme disease and my endometriosis and the way that they were impacting my daily life. And at that time, I was not of legal age of like adulthood, so I needed a guardian to be able to do so. So I was going in and needed help to be able to, 1, find someone, and 2, needed transportation to get there, needed help like in all areas of that. So I was doing that for some time. Not long. I can't really remember most of it. To be honest, I needed to take a break when I was filming because I genuinely forgot that I was doing that. I can't even remember why I stopped going, actually, but I don't remember it being helpful or effective for me, mainly because I think I didn't have much autonomy in that process of choosing. I didn't know at that time that you could shop around for someone that you liked. So that stopped very quickly. I ended up actually going back to that counselor, I want to say 3 years later. So at that time I was an adult by the like legal terms of it. I was going back for a summer during my college years. So I went back and saw her every Monday for a summer, and I was able to, fill out forms on my own and drive myself there, those kinds of things. Of course, because it was the summertime, it didn't last very long, but I did feel like that had a little bit more of an effective component for me, because the fact that I felt like I had a little bit more distance and independence and privacy in that component of it. I do feel like that was not an effective counselor for me, but just having a little bit more separation and feeling like it was my own component of it was an effective space for me. I stopped going to therapy at that time because during those years I was still at school in Seattle and didn't think to go to therapy at that time, even though I should have then. I moved back to Portland in 2014 and should have been going to therapy at that time. Did not. Instead, tried to seek out therapy and some sort of means through personal training instead, and used my personal trainer as some sort of cathartic kind of counseling means instead, and she was great in that way. She was an amazing mentor to me and was fantastic in that way. I mean, obviously she was not a counselor, she was not a therapist, she was not in that way, but having someone who was accountable and I could go to for an hour 2 times a week was very helpful for me in that way. I did finally kind of recognize my needs and assess that I needed some sort of counseling and mental health help in 2015, and wanted to look into my university's mental health kind of stuff at that time. And it was an absolute shit show. I went in, I remember, and made an appointment to see someone and had them assess my needs. I remember telling them that I needed help and I was having a really rough time, and the soonest that they could see me was, or they could make an appointment for someone to see me, was 6 weeks. And I remember leaving feeling really invalidated by that whole thing, and I was like, nope, this is not for me. Like, I'm never gonna do this again. And so that was a problem. I should mention that, so that was during 2015. During 2015, during the spring of that time, I was in a car wreck. I have talked about this a little bit, I think, in this space before, but I have a lot of trauma from that event. I have a lot of trauma in my life, but that is a very specific component of my trauma. And so I did end up seeing my second therapist in the summer of 2015. She was recommended to me by my personal trainer / mentor. They were very close friends, and she was fantastic. Definitely needed at that time. Very great for assessing the effects of the car wreck for me. Great, wonderful, but not on my insurance, so I couldn't see her unless I wanted to pay out of pocket. So I only saw her through the summer, and then I stopped, and I didn't go back. So I didn't see a therapist again until August of this past year in 2016, when I started my grad school. Now, one of the benefits of my private university is that they offer free mental health services. Now, they're not free, they're included in my tuition, but alas, I looked into it and started using it. I called and made an appointment and thought, I'm just gonna do it. Take a leap, do whatever. And the person that I was scheduled with in a time that worked for me was this individual named Julia. And I am not the kind of person to like make the appointment and if it doesn't work out, just like shop around and do that kind of thing. So I knew kind of going into it that if it didn't work out, I wasn't going to make another appointment with someone else. So I was kind of banking on it working. And my therapist is fantastic and really validating for the things that I've gone through in my life. I have not experienced a lot of validation and compassion, and she has that for me, which is really important. The things that we discuss every week are really tough, and I'm really thankful that she is as understanding as she is. She gives me a lot of resources and understands how I think in a way that was so quick. And I'm grateful that I don't have to do a lot. I'm naturally loquacious, so I will talk about everything and anything that she asks me. There aren't a lot of days where I just don't say anything, but I do feel confident that I could just go in and not say anything and she would be completely okay with that. So my therapist helps me work through and work with my anxiety and my chronic trauma. Prior to seeing her, I knew that I had anxiety. That was something that I've kind of been aware of this whole time. The chronic trauma thing, I did not really know about. I mean, I'm kind of aware of the fact that I have had traumatic experiences in my life, but having names to these things is really important to me, and hearing them from someone, especially like her, is so important. So much of my life I could not discuss these experiences. I thought what I experienced was normal, and once I had an inkling that it was not, I couldn't discuss it. Once I couldn't discuss it, I couldn't escape it. And so being able to talk about it with her means a lot to me. And I know that for a lot of people, therapy is rough and hard to access. And especially with the struggles of legislation this past week, I felt like it was really important for me to make this and talk about how important accessible healthcare and therapy and things like this are for me and for the folks that I know and for the folks that I don't know, because I would not be where I am and where I'm going to be and where I want to be without this specific component of my self-care. I didn't think this was going to be as hard as it is. Don't have a good bow to put around this. My therapy is hard for me. I'm trying to build compassion for myself and not just compassion for others, but it's worth doing to care about yourself as much as you care about others. I think that's where I'm gonna end this. Okay, bye.